Hey, Brady Quinn, you see that sneaky little move? Sneaky little move over the weekend, late on a Friday, the old Friday news dump from USC.
Ooh. Yeah, I did.
Bye-bye to the Bonerino. Mike Bohn, athletic director at USC, been there since 2019, abruptly resigns. Now, he did release a statement at the time, so let's first take a look at this statement. Very humble, this Mike Bohn, who said, quote, "I will always be proud of leading the program out of the most tumultuous times in the history of the profession, and at USC with a restored reputation and national milestone accomplishments. I led the process to join the Big Ten Conference, hired marquee head coaches, produced the highest graduation rate in school history, and won numerous national and conference championships." He then went on to say that I have been fortunate to have had so many wonderful opportunities and met so many terrific people. I depart wishing the very best to all whom I worked with and served. And moving on, it is important now that I focus on being present with my treasured family, addressing ongoing health challenges, and reflecting on how I can be impactful in the future. And then the LA Times did a little digging. And as it turns out, the old Bonerino allegedly, there were some criticisms about, the treatment of certain staffers, made female staffers feel uncomfortable by making comments about their weight and their physical appearances and all that stuff that came along with it. There was also some reports that he would just not show up to certain meetings or certain events. He missed national championships in other sports. A couple of coaches said Mike Bohn is the reason why they took jobs elsewhere. So the nice little Friday news dump and the presentation that they tried to give us, Brady Quinn, apparently now that we start to do a little bit of digging, there was some stuff going on there with old Bonerino at USC.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some truth to what he said as far as where he's guided Southern Cal to at this point. He was able to bring in Lincoln Riley, who has been huge for their football program in not only recruitment but trying to turn things around. He helped navigate a school going to the Big Ten and securing up their financial security for the future. And what that's going to look like moving forward, as so many other schools are trying to figure out what their future even looks like, what conference they're going to play in, what kind of revenue they can generate. He was able to lock that up for them, which as much as other sports may be frustrated with maybe his lack of involvement around their school, at least at this point, he's given them the financial ability to support it and sustain moving forward. So there's a lot of truth to some of the things that he pointed out. The tough thing is when you hear something like this and someone immediately resigns, you worry that it's a health concern. I think that was the initial thought for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And then when you dug into it more, you heard, okay, maybe there were some things going on at Southern Cal. Maybe there were some things that even dated back to his time at Cincinnati. I would expect the LA Times to have something more substantial to report on probably this week. But the odd thing is it's such a fumble by Southern Cal, considering, like, if there was a history of something back at Cincinnati, how did you not know? Like, how is it possible that you didn't figure this out through the background check and the hiring process? And it feels like time and time again when you look at their most recent athletic directors and some of the fumbles they've had, there's a reoccurring theme. and they finally kind of went outside the box and who they went to go hire, but there's still an issue with their process of just even figuring out who the right person could be or the right fit is, for them. But, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't either see a familiar face come back, but this will be a coveted job, especially considering the position now that Southern Cal's in. Mike Bohn did a lot of the hard work that needed to be done, or maybe some of the nasty work or tough work that needed to be done in order to position USC in a spot where they're safe moving forward. Now it's just about how an athletic director is going to be more involved in a lot of the other things going on around sports with NIL and the potential of student athletes being looked at as employees.
God, USC has provided so much material, like, over the years, like everything from, cast members from Full House going to prison to bums fielding punts at practice and Clay Helton wasn't aware because he was too busy on his golf simulator that he had a homeless guy roaming the hallways there at practice, like to the old Bonarino, like all the other. It's one thing after another when it comes to USC, and I know it probably is a heartbreaking situation for you with how fond you are of USC and that whole program, to see them continually find themselves stepping in it on a national scale.
I'm not going to be one of those guys who's going to dance on this sort of situation.
No.
Okay, there's a lot of people impacted by this, obviously.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a coach who gets hired by an athletic director, that AD is no longer there. You go through a bad season. It's tough. Like, you can be concerned about your job security. The leadership of an athletic director impacts, obviously, the student athletes. So there's a lot of people involved here. I will say this was the least surprising school, though, if something like this was going to happen, that it happened at Southern Cal.
Right. Now, I got to ask you, in what order, when something happens like this at USC, which continues to pop up, it seems like every year to 18 months something pops up at USC. In what order does your potential needling or inquiring about what's happening there go from? Like, do you go Petros first and then Leinart and then Reggie Bush, or what order are we looking at when it comes to reaching?
I don't
out to
needle
find
anyone.
that?
You don't have to. They're already getting it from other people. They're like, they just turn to the USC brethren. They go, here we go again.
Right.
Once again, we got to deal with this again. We got to answer about this. I mean, it's always something. I mean, that's the thing is, it happens so often you don't have to say anything. It's just a part of it. And a lot of people on the West Coast get upset by me saying this. It's no hatred towards USC. It's not opinion. It's just a fact.
It's the truth.
It's always something.
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's nothing to be said because you just laugh every time. You're like, oh, wait. You don't like the weather now. Wait 20 minutes. Like, something else is going to happen here at Southern Cal.
It's just like, there's always something, man. Like, there's no Notre Dame, USC stuff going. Like, this is the facts. Every single 12 to 18 months, something pops up all the time. And if you were to see a story like this, or the Aunt Becky story, or the bum at practice, like, and if you just said, all right, we'll give you 2-3 guesses, which team do you think, or which program do you think had all this going on? Like, USC is going to be one of the top guesses, and you're going to be right. Like, these are all facts. All of this happened, and I cannot wait until Wednesday morning when Petros comes on, because hopefully between now and then more of these details come out, and then that's one where you just throw Petros the ball and let him run with it. Just let him run his face off, because he'll talk on and on about what a disaster USC is. But they did make sure years ago to make sure that Petros was no longer going to be the PA announcer at the basketball games, because they weren't happy about some of his criticism of the program. So there's all that good stuff there. Old USC back at it again.